So, have you ever said to an animal communicator, or if you're an animal communicator, have you ever had somebody say to you, just tell my pet? So, that's what I want to talk about today because so many people have this thought that, well, if I could just tell my pet what what's going to happen, what to do, what that there's no problem, then everything would be okay. But the real beauty, the real power, the real impact of intuitive animal communication is understanding an animal's perspective. So, this is really about asking, not telling. So, in this video, I'm going to share my perspective as a professional animal communicator for 15 years and share why this is so important to me and why it should be so important to you. If you're new, welcome, everybody, welcome. Welcome to Animal Communication with Dr. Cara, either my YouTube channel or my podcast. My name is Dr. Cara Gubbins, and I am a professional animal communicator and the founder of the Animal Communicator Academy. My mission is to help all animal lovers become confident animal communicators so they can help their pets or become professionals or add animal communication to their current profession. My vision is to see animal communicators everywhere that humans and animals interact. So, every home, every veterinarian's office, every animal rescue center, every shelter, every rehab center, everywhere that we find animals and people together, let's have animal communicators. And if you support this mission and vision, then please like, subscribe, and hit the bell so we can reach even more animal lovers and animal communicators. So this topic I think is really fundamental to the field of animal communication. And one of the things that I love is that our field has grown so much over the last 5 to 10 years that it's become much more common for so many more people to be employing animal communicators, to be training as animal communicators. But I think there's also a little bit of misunderstanding of what an animal communicator does and how it works. And that's why people saying, just tell my pet, as if that's going to magically make everything all better, I think is a symptom of the fast growth of our field over the last few years. So years ago, I read Stephen Covey's book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of those habits I think really applies here, and it really stands out to me as something that I embraced from the beginning when I read that book in my personal life, but definitely something that was just naturally woven into my animal communication practice when I started as a professional animal communicator. And that principle is first seek to understand. So once we understand somebody else's perspective, then is the time to share our perspective. So as an animal communicator, coming in and saying, okay, this is what's going to happen, and just telling a pet that this is what's going to happen, or an animal, a wild animal, or a rescued animal, whoever we're communicating with, um, it just is like, it's like that Cat Stevens song. The moment I learned to talk, I was told I had to listen, right? Like, it's so horrible to say, here's somebody that can communicate with you, but you can't say anything. You have to listen, right? Here's your chance to talk, but no, you have to listen. It just is robbing. It's like pulling the rug out from underneath somebody. It's robbing them of their power. It's robbing them of their expression, their impact in the world, their ability to get their needs met, to have their perspective understood. So I really recommend that whatever you do, you start with some open-ended questions. How are you? How do you feel about this? What do you think about this? What suggestions do you have? What kind of support do you need? What kind of help do you need? So that the very opening of every animal communication session should be asking questions or just absorbing, because a lot of times we'll connect with an animal and we'll just get all kinds of information from them. But either just receiving from them or asking questions and understanding what is their perspective on the situation. What are their recommendations? What do they need? How would they like to be supported? So get their perspective and their information first. And then you can share the other person, the person's side of it or your side of it or whatever. And I use this format, if you could call it that. It's just there's nothing formal about it. It doesn't even seem like a format. But this is just kind of like who I am and how I operate. And it was just built into my animal communication process. And so when I started having my clients say, well, no, I don't need to ask my horse or my dog or my cat or my turtle anything, just tell them this. Or my pet has this fear of cars, so just tell them it's safe. And as if that's going to make everything better and okay. But there's a reason for that situation. There's a reason for that behavior. And we need to use animal communication to discover that reason. Whatever is going on is the root of that. What you're seeing is a symptom. And so let's go find the root. Let's go find the source of whatever is going on. And let's honor this amazing being who is in your life by saying, I value you, I cherish you. I want to learn more about you. I want to understand you better. I want you to be able to share your life, your perspective, your vision, your experience with me. So I think this is so, so fundamental to our field. And I think when we overlook the incredible magic of being able to get another being's perspective on their life and their situation, the wisdom that comes out of that, the understanding that comes out of that, that's the magic of what we do as animal communicators. That's where the magic happens, the impact happens. And I probably should have compiled a list of examples of this before I started recording, but I have so many examples of just tell my dog that the cone's coming off or that the car is safe. But when we dive deeper, we learn that there's so much more there. And then the situation can be resolved. So that's what ideally a good animal communicator does is they're like detectives. They're understanding, they're asking the right questions, they're gathering the information. And then the clients, the human and animal clients, then they're on the same page. Then they can work together. Then they have understanding. So ask, don't tell really applies to animal communication sessions. First, seek to understand. First, ask the question, how are you? What's going on? What's your experience? So some people, I've noticed in my classes and in my academy that asking questions can be difficult. Thinking of the right questions to ask can be challenging. So let's take a moment to just think about what would some of those questions be. So you might want to start asking like, how are you? So simple, right? How do you feel about X? What's your experience with X, right? So very general, open-ended questions where you might be very surprised at the responses that you get. And then you can move into more specific. So kind of think of a funnel where you start with very broad questions and get more and more specific as you go along. And you can ask follow-up questions, right? Oh, okay, so what kind of support would you like if you're feeling this way? What would help you to feel this other way? How would you like to feel? What would help you feel this other way? So I'm trying to kind of cover a whole bunch of general stuff here, but sticking with the theme of first seek to understand. So I want you to think about, if you are a client of an animal communicator, what's your goal? What's your reason? What's your approach to working with an animal communicator? Are you going to an animal communicator to have them tell an animal something, or are you going to get a better understanding of what's going on with that animal? Are you asking or telling? And if you are telling rather than asking, then how could you start asking first? What would be the first question? If you were very curious and didn't know anything about the situation, what would be a question that you would ask? And also, we did a little bit of this brainstorming, but what are some questions that you could start with in the future? And if you're an animal communicator in training, or you're an animal communication practitioner or professional, I'm hoping that you have a whole toolbox of questions to ask in different situations, so that you can start with understanding. First, seek to understand. And when you do that, how does that change the interactions? What's the response of the animals? What's the outcome of those sessions? Is it more connection, understanding, love, simpatico, camaraderie, teamwork? Those are the kinds of things that I think you're going to see. So if this is like, oh, I never thought about this, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Just let me know. Just write telling if you have been telling up till now, or asking if you always ask first. All right, so I want you to bring this perspective of curiosity, discovery, openness, not knowing, bring that sense of wonder and curiosity and discovery and the beginner's mind to the situation, rather than have a plan and have your, go to an animal communicator to go implement your plan and say, this is what we're going to do, and blah, blah, blah. Start with asking, how are you? How do you feel about this? What's going on around this situation? Why do you think this is happening? Is there a reason for your behavior? So there's so many ways that we can approach the animal communication session when we start with curiosity, when we start with asking. And you're gonna be happier with the outcome. It's a huge shift, not only in how your animal's going to respond through the animal communicator, but how you're going to look at and see and approach the situation. And that's why we go to animal communicators, to help us see things from a different perspective, to help us solve challenges in our lives that we aren't able to do on our own. And so being very open to the leadership and the guidance of an animal communicator who says, here's how I operate. First, we're going to ask questions. Then you get to share your perspective. Super, super powerful. So this is just kind of a little maybe inspirational tip or tidbit, or something like that, to get you to think about things a little bit differently. I hope it's helpful. And if there's some other topic you want me to address, please leave a note in the comments. And I would be happy to create another video / podcast to answer your question, because if you have that question, I know so many other people do too. And if you're an aspiring animal communicator and you would like to train with me, join me in the Animal Communicator Academy and become a confident animal communicator. There's a link below, but you can always find more information at caragubbins.com/ACA. I wish you all the best with you and your beloved animal companions, and I hope that this opens up some conversations that go in new directions that just create magical results for everybody. Have a great day.